What are you seeing in commercial real estate? What's going on?
You know, it's an interesting market. The way we like to think about it is fire markets and ice markets. Fire being the traditional finance, insurance, and real estate, the traditional office markets, versus the ice markets, which are intellectual capital, energy, and education. And there really is a tale of two markets.
So tell us then what you're seeing, because I know even here locally in New York, there are a lot of companies that would much rather have these so-called creative class, I guess what you're calling the ice, the intellectual and the creative and the tech, versus the more traditional. Do you see that everywhere, or is that just a weird New York story at the moment?
No, we see it everywhere. In fact, a couple other examples are West LA, where that is happening as well, and also the northern corridor of Atlanta. But you nailed it. Midtown, for example, is trending downward because of the fire aspects of the market. But if you look at Midtown South and other markets, they're certainly rising because of the ice characteristics.
Okay, so you said West LA, here in New York. Where else are you seeing this to the point where, with all your experience, you sit up and take notice?
Sure. I mean, a few emerging markets are Raleigh-Durham, for example, Austin, Denver's doing quite well as well. Really, any markets that have that characteristic. You know, one interesting fact that we track is energy production in this country actually exceeded imports for the first time since 1995 last month. Employment in that sector is up roughly 40% over the last 5 years. So if you have an energy story, or as I said earlier, intellectual capital story, or an education story, those markets are actually doing quite well.
Well, it's funny. I was just in Texas actually last week, and there is this whole ecosystem built up, and it's actually energy and it's real estate, and that was around Dallas, and a lot of people talking about the energy story, so not a huge surprise there. What else are you seeing from your vantage point that we may not think about every day?
Sure. One other interesting thing, the widening of the Panama Canal, obviously happening a long ways away from the U.S., but it's having implications. And the reason for that, you're going to have much larger container ships going through the canal. They're going to be coming to East Coast ports that are getting ready for them. There are 7 ports ready now, 15 that'll be ready by the end of next year. And that's going to remake effectively the many elements of the U.S. industrial distribution system, and also have positive impacts on port cities like Charleston, Norfolk, and Baltimore.
So if they're set up to just kind of deal with, if you like, these bigger ships, these bigger shipments, then you're going to be able to see opportunities in those areas, and obviously more goods in process will be able to be processed. How is financing?
You know, financing is actually loosened up. We actually track a barometer that the Federal Reserve Board focuses on, which are institutions that are loosening versus institutions that are tightening. And that's actually at the highest level since 2005, which was obviously leading up to the bubble. There's about $525 billion of CMBS outstanding. You know, one caution, Deirdre, would be the fact that about $400 billion of that is the vintage 05 to 07, which will have to be refinanced here in the next few years. And the pro formas on that CMBS are a little bit tough. So there are some risk there. But credit standards are loosening a bit.
They are loosening, and I guess to your point, if we're all talking about the Fed and what's coming, it seems like no tightening or no slowing down anyway on QE, so that's likely to continue to support that market.